How would it feel to be amongst some of the greatest operatives in the SAS, rampaging through tough enemies and who never give up on their mission, while you are completely incompetent with a firearm yourself? This is one of society's most asked questions. Can you beat Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare as a pacifist? If you're new to these sorts of challenge videos, or just stupid, then I'll explain the rules. I'm not allowed to kill anyone by any means. Yes, that is all the rules. I can have my teammates kill for me, as long as I'm not the one doing the killing, so I can get through the whole game without harming anyone. If you enjoy these sorts of videos, then like this video because why not? That was a rhetorical question. The story begins with the protagonist, John Soup McTarnish, being introduced to the basics of firearms. Sadly, we are forced to fire our weapon here. However, we aren't causing any harm to real people, so it's all good. Unless you consider cardboard cutouts real people, which I'm sure some people do. Unbeknownst to them, Soup wasn't actually a trained SAS member. Instead, he was sent down from above to keep watch on the action as a team complete their possibly world-threatening mission, which they are currently unaware of. The only thing that Soup was authorised to harm were watermelons, because no one likes watermelon. However, some instances may lead to Soup being forced to cause harm to another creature, and so he would need to attempt with all his strength to avoid this fate. We are then introduced to the rest of the team, most notably Captain Price, where we are put through more extensive training, which will definitely not be put to good use. I managed to achieve an impressive 14.5 seconds on the training course. The game recommends I should play at veteran difficulty, which is the highest. However, I did not want to put myself through even more torture than I already am, and so I go with the lowest difficulty to begin with. Soup and the team go on their first mission, while they are trying to locate a crate of gummy worms on an Estonian freighter, as Price gets real hangry if he doesn't get his daily dose. We stealthily fly in via helicopter, where we land on the opposite side of the freighter to where we're supposed to be. As the enemy doesn't know that we are here currently, it's much easier to allow Price and the team to kill for me, as there's not normally a huge amount of enemies at once. We go through the first section of the freighter, letting our fellow SAS members take care of any enemies, until we are finally spotted at the other end. Luckily, we are not expected to fight anyone shooting at us, but instead the helicopter that dropped us off takes care of the rest of the enemies for us. As you know, there are many different types of firearms that can be used at different ranges, such as sniper rifles for long range, assault rifles for medium range, and shotguns and SMGs for close quarters combat. However, Gaz has other thoughts as he takes out his shotgun to use at quite far ranges, as he seems to have forgotten all his combat training. At least he's quite a useful member to take out all the enemies, even though it might not be as efficient as it could be. Luckily, Price is still able to be an effective member of the team and is quite capable of taking out enemies as well as acting as a good distraction so I don't get shot myself. To be honest, that's all they're there for. Distracting the enemy fire and reciprocating on them so I don't have to get involved myself. Perfect teammates. This first mission was relatively easy. I just let all of my teammates kill the enemies, stayed behind them and led any stray enemies back towards them so I could take care of them. As this was on the easiest difficulty, any shots I did take didn't do much damage, so I wasn't really worried at the moment. The biggest problem I had with this mission is boredom. Once Soup, Price and Gaz finally make it to the container they suspect is holding the gummy worms, they open it up to find something even more shocking. They discover something that they could never even imagine being possible. Instead of gummy worms, they find the most dangerous package of the last, still possibly active, $19 Fortnite cards. In order to erase this dreadful nightmare from the earth, they take the codes and also the shipping details and make their way out of the freighter. They have no other choice but to sink the freighter in order to destroy all evidence of these codes ever existing. Soup and the team are then sent on their next operation, while they need to find, secure and retrieve their Russian informant, Nikolai, who previously gave them intel on the freighter, and was promised a portion of the retrieved gummy worms. He's definitely going to be disappointed when he finds out the bad news. Nikolai had become compromised, so it's essential for them to retrieve him as soon as possible and bring him back to base. Furthermore, the mission was supported by Sergeant Caramel and his loyalists, who tried to bargain for gummy worms himself as he was jealous. Soup and the team made their way towards the house at the end of the town, where they believe Nikolai is being held. On their way there, they are seeked after to provide sniper support for Sergeant Caramel's soldiers, and normally at this stage would be expected to help all the soldiers on the ground by shooting at all the enemies and clearing a path for them. However, with my incapabilities, I had to allow Price and the gang to kill everyone for me. All this meant was that I had to wait for them all to be cleared out before we could move on to the next stage. Surprisingly, they were much more competent than I'd imagined them to be, and so it didn't take long for everyone to be killed. However, I was disappointed as this felt like a missed opportunity for me, because it would normally feel like shooting fish in a barrel if the fish had fully automatic weapons and anti-aircraft cannons, as the enemy is not able to hit you when you're up on the ledge, and so you are basically a god. After everyone else, excluding myself, cleared out the first stage, Soup and the team made their way through a burning building towards the second area. This part took a lot longer than expected, especially seeing as it's on the easiest difficulty. Most of the time I was just sitting behind cars or a house, waiting for all the enemies to be cleared out. Some of the time rockets would come flying at me, however they luckily did not kill me. At this stage I could literally stand out in the open for a couple minutes and not be shot once. The enemy's accuracy was honestly one of the most disgraceful things I've ever watched. However, my teammates weren't any better either. Finally, after about 10 minutes of the same goddamn fight, we were able to move on to the next area. We once again had to provide some sniper support for Sergeant Caramel's men. This time there were a few vehicles, however there also were more men on the ground, and so we still did not need to fire a single shot. I'm sorry Sergeant, but I have no idea what you mean when you ask us for your help. You have it completely under control. Instead, I think you should go get some help from a barber. Look at that beard. Pathetic. Just kidding, Caramel. Please don't hurt me. After all the enemies were cleared out, the team made their way up to their outpost, where I, for some reason, started admiring the scenery, while Gaz calmly explained the situation of the missing gummy worms to Caramel. We then make our way down to the ground, where we are put into more direct combat. Surprisingly, with these lots of enemies, we were allowed to just run straight past them instead of actually taking them out. But for the first few minutes I did sit behind the wall, waiting for them to be taken out by some of my teammates. However, that did not work out very well. Instead, most of the time my teammates were just getting splattered by RPGs, and turning into their own nice little soup. After I realised that most of these enemies didn't actually need to die, I made my way through one of the houses and towards the house at the end of the street. Our plan was to turn out the lights of the house, infiltrate, collect Nikolai, and then exfiltrate without a trace. Well, that was Price's plan anyway. Mine was to just stick behind him and do absolutely shit all. Gaz went around the back of the house, preparing to cut the power, while Gaz and I were outside the front door, getting ready to infiltrate. Gaz turned off the power and we burst in. As we had night vision goggles, we were able to see in the dark. However, the enemies did not have this advantage. This luckily meant that I could just walk around the house without getting shot, and allow Price to kill everyone until we got to the second floor. We made our way through the last few enemies and headed to the room that they held Nikolai in. Once we reached him, we took him out of the house and called for a chopper, which allowed us to escape from the Warzone. Through the shipping details found on the freighter, it was discovered that military commander Khaled Al-Assad was responsible for the Fortnite codes. It was therefore essential for him to be brought down to justice. This caused the First Force Recon Team to become involved in the search of Al-Assad. Lieutenant Vasquez, Staff Sergeant Griggs and Paul Jackson are informed that he is currently broadcasting at a TV station inside a small town in the Middle East. The squad made their way through many buildings, controlled by opposing forces. Luckily, both Lieutenant Vasquez and Staff Sergeant Griggs were more competent fighters than those teammates we had previously. Therefore, I didn't have to worry about killing anyone or being killed myself. The squad made quick work of the enemies in the first few rooms. However, the next couple of rooms in this house were definitely a struggle, seeing as the enemy had some quite high-powered weaponry. To add even more on top of the stress of war, along the way to the TV station, Jackson developed quite a large hatred towards the intimidating TV screens broadcasting the awful propaganda. As he embraced his anger, he realised it was up to him to prevent the uprising of technology. We managed to make our way back onto the street, where we were regrouped with the rest of our friendly forces. Now I have to say, there was absolutely crap tons of enemies in this section. It seemed like they just never stopped respawning. Luckily, neither did our friendlies either. Whenever we got down to the last one, another friendly soldier would respawn. Therefore, I didn't really have to worry about us losing all of our forces, so I just stayed in a corner all the time and waited for all of the enemies to die. There was an especially difficult and confusing area, which was surrounded by metal fencing. At this point you couldn't really tell where all the enemies were coming from, and so I had to be wary of all our rooftops, because they would always spawn up there, if not on the ground. There was really never an end to the amount of gunfire going on in the background. However, luckily we were able to make it back onto the main street. Once we made it back onto the main road, however, a truck with a minigun on the back of it came around and started shooting at us. However, as it was such a big gun, it really was inaccurate, and so we did. All I had to do was wait for my teammates to actually start moving up and stop pissing about far behind me. There were also many alleyways in the street, and so it was very easy for me to hide amongst some of them to avoid most of the enemies. There was also a second little square area where there were even more enemies hidden. However, after a while of waiting for my teammates to try and clear them out, I realised that we could just move on to the main TV station and ignore all of them behind me, like I do a lot of the time anyway. The squad made their way into the TV station, while I came into contact with more enemies. Luckily these ones were still just as incompetent as the last ones, scurrying all around the place just like dumb stupid mice, looking for new things to hide behind. Once my team finished off the enemies in the first section, we proceeded into the second, far bigger room with absolutely hundreds of TV screens. This was my absolutely worst nightmare, as I was forced out of my control to destroy every last one of them. Every now and then I'd get shot or blown up. However, as it's still on the easiest difficulty, these did not kill me immediately. Luckily I was just able to stick behind Vasquez and allow him to kill all of the enemies until we could proceed to the next area. This is normally my least favourite part of this mission. However, this time, well, it took bloody ages. And teammates just didn't want to seem to kill the people on the top floor. I have no idea why, that's absolutely stupid. Why can't you just kill someone that's just a bit further up than you are? Anyway, enough of my ranting. We went to the other side of the room once it was all cleared out and met up with the rest of our squad that we were separated from. To be honest, I don't even remember being separated from them, however it's glad to have them back. I'm glad to have them back. We made our way up to the roof towards a TV studio. Now normally what you're supposed to do here, I think anyway, is to kill any enemies that are coming in from the ground. However, even in my normal playthroughs, I just completely ignore them all and run up to the top floor. So guess what I did this time? You got it. Provided absolutely no support to my teammates at all and run straight past them. I clearly am an extremely valuable member to this team. Once we finally got up to the studio room, we breached it, however found out that Al-Assad was never actually here. Instead, it was an April Fool's prank, which was done pretty well I think. Unfortunately, we'll have to save his torture for later on. Instead, we'll have to go back to our home base and finish off our Fortnite pack openings. To be honest, I don't even know what Fortnite gift cards are about anymore, and so I'm just going to assume it's something like FIFA packs. Sadly, the team's search for Al-Assad came to a temporary halt, so for now we're going to end off this episode. If you did enjoy, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. This is only part 1 of who knows how many parts, but I'm rowing to see if Soup and the team, as well as the army dudes, are able to catch Al-Assad and bring him down to justice for his unlawful crimes against humanity. Be sure to click that bell so you get notifications from when I upload. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Goodbye for now.